Hi, welcome back to the channel. In this episode, I'm going to discuss the different techniques that we take to identify which projects we want and which projects we don't want. As always, before we get into the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more content. So when you're starting your own firm or you're working as a project engineer or someone that's onboarding client for an engineering firm, you want to keep certain things in mind. We simply can't take all projects on, and we need to determine which ones are worth taking and which ones aren't. Taking on a bad project can lead to 50% more overhead and a lot of sleepless nights. Every year we have about 3 or 4 projects when looking back that I wish we never took. Client and engineer relationships is a relationship. It needs to work both ways. It's not a one-sided service, it's a relationship. My goal as the engineer is to understand the client's needs, his wants, and essentially being able to put that to life in terms of having a design. So whether the client be a homeowner, an architect, whatever they might be, the first thing I want to understand is if it's something within our wheelhouse. Is it something that we have the skills to do? If someone asks us to design a spaceship, unfortunately we just don't have those skills, and we might have to let them know to go somewhere else because we just don't have the capacity to do that. As engineers, the line between what we know and what we don't know needs to be very firm because we don't want to be in a situation where we take a project where no one has that expertise and you end up in a bit of a dodgy situation. That's something I've never done and that's something I never want to do. Every project that we take on is something that I'm very familiar with and have a lot of expertise in because, again, that's the number one thing, public safety, and by taking on a project that we are very comfortable with, then it's a lot easier to kind of deliver and have good results. Something I wanted to highlight in our everyday life, when you pick friends, you pick people that you have a connection with. When you pick a partner, you pick someone that you have a good connection and a good relationship with. And this is the exact same thing that you'll have to do when determining which clients and which projects you want to take on. The next thing I want to talk about is the relationship. Is the person that's going to be retaining our firm someone that's experienced when dealing with projects, dealing with engineers, or are they completely new to the situation? If it's a homeowner who's never dealt with an engineer before, how receptive are they to understanding the process? Because typically when they come in, I'll explain to them the process, and if they're receptive to that, then that's a positive. That's something that's someone I can work with. If they're not receptive to that, unfortunately, that makes it very difficult. I don't like to have friction relationships. Something else I want to talk about is sometimes clients come to us after some kind of failure or something that's happened that's negative in their house, and that's something that's a little bit touchy. So I want to make sure that they're in the right mindset to be dealing with us on a professional level. What we emphasize is that we want to deal with professional people. Having a good client really makes the projects a lot better, and that's really, if we have a good client, it usually makes the projects go way smoother. Third thing is expectations. Again, if the client's expectations and our expectations don't match up right away, then it's usually not a good idea. So that, whether that be timelines, if someone comes in and says, I need this tomorrow or tonight, odds are we won't be able to deliver it right away. If we can't deliver on the project, we don't take it on. So again, if the expectations are realistic in terms of budget, time, and delivery, then that's something, yeah, we'll take the project on. But if any one of those isn't really 100%, then we probably won't, because our firm's mentality and our core values is that we don't like to overpromise and underdeliver. We like to deliver the project in the process that we've put together in our fee proposal. So that's something that we almost have to keep in mind, is making sure the expectations are realistic and that the deadlines could be met. So again, these are kind of the things we look for, but really the most important one is, are we qualified? Do we get along with the client? And are their expectations realistic? If all three line up, we're good to go, usually. If not, well, unfortunately, we might not be the best fit. And there's lots of engineers out there with all sorts of experience. So we typically recommend them to somebody else. We're a small town, so we know who's strong at what. So let's say it's a preserved wood foundation. I know an engineer who specializes in that, so I'll send them to him, or whatever it might be. This is just a small example. The key is, again, those 3 things, and typically the projects go well. Looking back every year, those 3 or 4 projects that never work out is because one of those 3 things were kind of overlooked. So whether that be the do we get along, the budget, it's never really the area of expertise, though. That we're pretty firm with, but it's, someone might come in, they might claim to understand the process, and throughout the process we understand that they're very new to it and we didn't really screen that properly. It's kind of like interviewing an employee. You're interviewing the client to make sure that it's a good fit to work with the organization. Anyways, I hope you've enjoyed the video. As always, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks.